iZotope released the new and improved Ozone 9. You know, I was a fan of the plugin already. Actually, some of the modules in it are among my all-time favorite plugins. This new version has some interesting new feature. Master Rebalance, Low End Focus, Mastering Assistant, but two in particular interest me, the new Tonal Balance and the new Stereo Imager. Is Ozone 9 worth the upgrade? Let's take a look. Hello everyone, welcome back to MixbusTv. Hope you're having a great day. Before we start, check the info box down below for my mixing courses, deals and special discounts on plugins, including the one we're looking at today, Ozone 9. Let's see the new feature of this one. I've been a fan of iZotope Ozone for a long time. If not as an all-in-one plugin, its single modules used as a single plugins are among my all-time favorite. So I got myself Ozone 9. This one is the advanced version. So let's take a look at the new feature. The first one is the Master Rebalance module. This module allows you to work on the three main elements of a finished mix, which is vocals, bass, and drums, and rebalance them with just one slider, even if you don't have the single track, so you're working on the two track. So let's see how it works right away. On this particular mix already, I'm working on the vocals. It's very efficient at lowering the vocals compared to the instrumental. It's pretty impressive. I'm just one slider. When you boost the vocal, also the other elements in the mid-range gets a little boosted, like snare and some synths. We'll try on different mixes. It's pretty impressive already. Too high of a level for vocals in final mixes is something very common. So just that is a great function and just so easy because it's just one slider. Let's work on the bass on same mix. The drum in the song is arguably one of the most important elements, so let's try to work on that with the Master Rebalance. Again, very impressive. It's not just the snare and the kick, but it picks up the hi-hats very, very well. Let me try the Low End Focus, which is the other new module on this track, to try to catch the bass and the kick drum on this particular track. It definitely gets a lot heavier and beefier with this. And again, just two sliders, pretty impressive. Let's try the Master Rebalance on a different mix.
Photo. She bought a bit of money on the back end. She be screaming, "Daddy, put me back in." I ain't got no time, this is Mackin. Girl, player, acting. Now you wanna see about the bird flow? You don't really know that I know. I ain't got no time for the game or the lame. I'ma get it one dime. Photo. Pause. What you really wanna talk about? How you wanna go and run my life? Pause. If you got the dollar to gon' get. If you really wanna see me, you know that they gon' drip. If you really got it poppin', then pop it, they gon' get. I ain't wanna talk, I don't never walk. I just wanna try. I did 5,000. She just wanna talk about the dick, I'm wildin'. I don't wanna fuck about the bitch, I'm gone. No, better yet.
In this case, I'm boosting the drum on this one a little bit, and it already changes the vibe of the song. That's also something you can use this for, not necessarily to fix problems, but to enhance.
Photo. She bought a bit of money on the back end. She be screaming, "Daddy, put me back in." I ain't got no time, this is Mackin. Girl, player, acting. Now you wanna see about the bird flow? You don't really know that I know. I ain't got no time for the game or the lame. I'ma get.
That is nice, actually. We have the Mastering Assistant. So, as a general rule, you know I'm not a fan of automated processes, but we've also seen some new AI plugins that are really impressive. So I'm just gonna give this one a shot. Basically, the Mastering Assistant, again, we've seen a similar technology on other plugins they have, analyzes the track and then gives you a quick preset, which doesn't necessarily mean you have to keep that way. You know, it could be a good starting point, especially if you're a beginner. So in this case, he asks you, what are you going for? A modern, probably clean, kind of master or preset starting point, or a vintage? Because we know Ozone has, on top of the super clean and precise and surgical tools like the dynamic EQ, the multiband compressor, also has a vintage collection for the vintage limiter, the vintage EQ, which is Pultec style enhanced, and also the vintage compressor. So I'm just gonna go for modern for this electronic track. We'll try something different on another mix. And then loudness in EQ, manual or reference. So you can load a reference track and Ozone will match it. And I'm going to leave the destination to streaming and let Ozone 9 analyze the track. Let's accept and see the signal path. So the maximizer is at the end, but apparently in the processing, the dynamic EQ was set after, which is very common to what a real mastering engineer would do, if not all the time, sometimes often. You set the maximizer after your first EQ rebalance, just to see how loud you can take that track. And then when you're right there before everything starts sounding bad, you do some adjustment before hitting the maximizer, so you can either stay at that level without artifacts, or you can either push it a little more or a little less if the track does not have the potential. But so this is my mix, and this is what it did. The equalizer had it 2 dB here, around 300-400. No dynamics. Apparently my mixes needed no dynamics, and dynamic EQ and maximizer. So let's see. I'm curious to see the equalizer first.
Hear it.
I'm not a fan of that EQ of 400, but let's leave it there for now. Let's see the dynamic EQ, what it's doing.
Hear it.
Yeah, that's legit. You know, the vocals are the element that pops up more frequency-wise. 2 female singers we have here. We have Natalie Nebula and Sammy Doll from AMX singing. So 2 female vocals. They were not easy to mix. And this is the mix, not the mastering version. So legit dynamic EQ here on both frequencies, around 1K and 1.5. And then this Band XL treble dynamic at 60.
Hear it.
Barely hear it. All right. So it's legit. And then we have the maximizer.
Hear it.
With an extremely conservative 2 dB of gain reduction here. All right, so this was good. So let's try the Mastering Assistant in vintage mode now on a different mix. I'm gonna leave it at manual. I'm gonna leave it at medium and streaming for destination. Let's see. Play the song. All right, the assistant in this mode changed the sequence again. Analyzing audio, setting vintage EQ, setting equalizer to adjust spectral balance. So use the color EQ first, analyzing dynamic range, bypassing vintage comp, no extreme dynamic range detected. So again, that's like the trend of my mixes. Apparently there's no extreme dynamic range to tame. Again, no mastering, no compression in mastering in this case. That's what the Mastering Assistant tells us. Setting vintage limiter threshold to add character, so it colors first, and then the maximizer threshold to hit the target loudness. There's no dynamic EQ in this one. Let's accept and see what it did. So first of all, let's see how it sounds with and without. Let's try to gain match.
Never did before I hold you on the floor. The things I buried under sounds.
Okay, it's a little brighter. Let's see what it did. Yeah, we have a boost here, a high shelf of 16K, and then this bell around here at 32 Hertz. And the vintage EQ, which has nothing but just a low cut of 0.3 dB at 20. So you can tell by bypassing it is a little thinner, is a little brighter mix. And then no vintage comp, vintage limiter. Let's see what it does.
Never did before hold you on the floor. The things I buried under sound.
We have a couple of dB on kick and snare in modern. Let me see how it changes the color if I go in tube and analog. I remember the old version. I liked the vintage limiter even for single tracks a lot, even for vocals a lot.
Never did before hold you on the floor. The things I buried under sound are gone with the touch of your hand.
Okay, the modern is obviously more modern, more punchy, more faster, a little more snappy. I think I would like the two better for this one and take it back a little bit.
Never did before hold you on the floor. The things I buried under.
And then the maximizer, we have again the classic IRC4.
Never did before hold you on the floor.
This case is not even working, so you might want to take it down. And for streaming, we left it for streaming. The ceiling is a -1 dB as opposed to the -0.3 for CD play. So all the questions about what's the difference, how do you master differently from for CD or streaming, that's what the master assistant suggests. -1 is a little bit much, but you get the idea. You just lower the ceiling if you don't want any problem when the track is converted from WAV to MP3, if you don't want it to have oversample peaks, to distort.
Never did before hold you on the floor. The things I buried under sound.
In this case, I still like my EQ better. I wouldn't use EQ in this case, but again, that's my mix. I'm not the one to judge, but the vintage limiter is definitely a nice module, even for single tracks, like I said. Let's take a look now at the new tonal balance. I really like the tonal balance control. Is one plugin that I've been using with success. I think it's very well designed how it shows you the curve. You just have to learn how to read it, because sometimes, depending on your mix, it's not always right. Some mixes, for example, I had either the low mid or the high mid being too low compared to what the tonal balance was telling me, but I knew it was the style of the mix. So that's one thing when using tonal balance control. Don't take what it says blindly, okay? Some mixes are like, they have maybe a minimalistic arrangement, so they won't match exactly, but it's a really nice tool, especially for the very low end and the high end, and the high mids too. This is my experience, and that was the old one. In this one, first of all, we have a resizable GUI, which is great. I love it. Broad or fine, I usually like to leave it at broad, but they added several genres, bass, heavy, country, EDM, folks, and you can import your source track to compare. And also, if you have another plugin, I'm gonna put let's say the EQ here. You can select the source, and you can see when you do one move with the EQ, you can see it in the tonal balance control. So let's start with the mix and see where we are at. Not bass heavy, let's do modern pop, let's do rock.
Never did before hold you on the floor. The things I buried under sound are gone.
Okay, tonal balance control tells me that my mix is pretty much there. So yeah, I don't know what to do. Let's do something just to do something. Let's see. He doesn't like my low end is a little too big for him.
Never did before hold you on the floor. The things I buried under sounds are gone with the touch of your hand. I'm running. There's no
Okay, with just one move that we can see mirrored in the tonal balance control, we adjusted the low end to where the reference for rock, in this case, tells us it should be. So, regardless or not my mix needing that, this is a very, very useful tool. I love it. The fact that you can load tracks and reference other mixes, whether yours or commercial tracks, it's absolutely great. The last thing that I want to check out is one of my favorite modules of Ozone, and is the imager. So they added in the stereoize mode a mode 2. So for this one I need a mono track. I want to try it on a mono track, but I want to try it on the mix as well. So the stereoizer is one of my favorite stereo widener processor. It was before. I love it. The fact that it's multi-band, I love that too. And it has also a great function, which is the learn function to set the bands. So let's do that.
never did before hold you on the floor. The things I buried under sounds.
All right, he learned the song. So let me see what we can do with the stereo imaging.
Never did before hold you on the floor. The things I buried under sounds are gone with the touch of your hand.
Again, I've always liked this one. I like how it spread the stereo field. It also boosts the level a little bit, so pay attention to that, especially if you're using it in mastering. But let's try it on a mono track to use the stereoize in mode 1 and 2 and hear the differences. And I'm gonna try it on an acoustic guitar. Let's try mode 2. Very nice. The mode 1 is the classic obvious stereoizing effect, which turned this mono guitar really wide in stereo. And the mode 2 is a lot more subtle, will give you probably a better mono compatibility, even if not that flashy of an effect. But kudos to Isotope for adding this one to an already great module, one of my favorite stereoizer out there. The initial question, Ozone 9 is worth the upgrade? In my opinion, absolutely yes. All the features in this new processor are great. The master rebalance and low end focus, I don't care if you're a professional master engineer or just a newbie, if you use them correctly and subtly, it's probably the quickest way to do things that you would probably take 30 minutes to do, you know? It doesn't mean that you're gonna take down the vocals to like 560B or something like that, or reshape the low end that is completely off on a mix, but use it correctly. They are great tools. I think they did a really great job. The new tonal balance, I love the old one, I love the new one even more, and the stereo imager as well. I don't know what the difference between the advanced, which is the version that I have, and the standard are, but you can find out on the Isotope site easily. Links are gonna be in the info box down below. I hope this video was useful. I hope you liked it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like. If you have any question on this plugin, mastering, levels, streaming, CD, whatever, for the rapid fire Q&A, the live stream Q&A, leave it in the comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.